Who saved him? People be like, God. Your first thing is, yo, God saved this guy. Maybe the devil, maybe Satan saved him.
Wasn't Supreme, it was Irv Gotti and his people who put that on 50. That's why 50 hate them so much. Chaz had worked a deal out for Irv Gotti and them to give 50 $250,000.
How you bully and the victim at the same time?
Gene Deal just dropped a bomb, flipping the whole Murder Inc. versus G-Unit beef on its head. He says Ja Rule put a $25,000 bounty on 50 Cent's head, and Irv Gotti knew all about it. Gene's exact words, Ja Rule and Irv Gotti were putting out contracts. Gene claims that $25,000 was the going rate in the streets to get someone seriously hurt or worse, and that figure was floating around with industry insiders and street crews targeting 50. He even told The Art of Dialogue a few months ago that Ja, Irv, and Murder Inc. were plotting a hit on 50. No one ever got busted for putting cash on 50's head, but look at the timeline. First, 50 clashes with Ja and Irv. Then he's stabbed by Murder Inc.'s black child who bragged about it. Not long after, 50 gets shot 9 times outside his grandma's place. Even though the feds never officially named Ja or Irv in 50's shooting, Gene's words just reignited the flames. He says they knew exactly what was going down. And let's not ignore Supreme, Murder Inc.'s longtime associate, the same guy 50 exposed in Ghetto Quran, which lit the fuse on all this drama. Gene's dropping the bomb that 50's hit had the whole music industry's fingerprints on it. Labels, artists, execs, everyone looked the other way to let it happen. And Gene isn't just some random. He was Diddy's bodyguard back when Bad Boy, G-Unit, and Murder Inc. ruled the game. He's breaking the code wide open. So why talk now, 20 years later? Gene says the truth got buried, and he's here to dig it up. He claims Supreme was the muscle, but Irv was the mastermind. Gene even says Irv and Ja first tried to pay $250,000 to end the beef, sending street legend Chaz Williams to broker peace. But when 50 refused, Irv flipped the script hard. Things switched from let's settle to let's end him real quick. Once the $25,000 hit was in motion, Gene says Irv and his crew dropped the cash themselves. He painted Irv as a boss, pulling strings both in the office and on the streets, way more than just a label head. Irv was the face of Murder Inc., building Ja Rule's career and running the label like a kingpin. But insiders knew he wasn't just making hits. He was tight with Supreme, the legendary Queen's kingpin. Their bond wasn't casual. It was so deep that the feds went after Murder Inc. in the early 2000s for allegedly washing drug money through the label. So when Gene says Irv made the call to greenlight 50, it doesn't sound wild. It sounds exactly like something he'd do without blinking. And let's not forget, Irv and 50's beef was never just music. When 50 got stabbed at the Hit Factory, Irv and Ja tried flipping the story with fake paperwork to cover their tracks. Claiming 50 was a snitch was just a desperate move to wreck his street cred. When peace talks failed, the whole thing turned dark, and rumors of a hit started flying. Meanwhile, Irv's been jumping on interviews for years, acting like he got blackballed and blaming 50 for killing his career. He even told Vlad TV that 50's only alive because he's got the devil on his side. Why say that if you didn't try and fail to end him? But Gene's calling it straight. Irv wasn't blackballed, he just got exposed. And 50 himself backed Gene up, saying he's one of the few telling the real story. While Irv's been playing victim on podcasts and documentaries, Gene's spilling how Irv plotted violence behind the scenes. This claim drops both motive and money right in Irv's lap, something the feds never dared say. And Gene didn't stop there. He says Murder Inc. had help keeping it all quiet, and what's next is explosive. When 50 Cent got lit up outside his grandma's house in 2000, you'd think the music world would have paused everything. But nobody said a word. No statements, no pray for 50 campaigns, just dead silence. And that silence screamed louder than anything. It wasn't just the streets shielding Supreme, the industry was in on it too. Supreme had real pull, connected to artists and execs moving millions, and he wasn't alone. Jimmy Henchman was another power player tied to both the block and the booth. Henchman managed stars like The Game and later got convicted for ordering a hit on 50's guy, Lodi Mack. Between Supreme and Henchman, 50 was boxed in by enemies with cash, clout, and crews ready to ride. So when he got shot, the industry didn't rush to help. They stayed quiet or kept cashing checks from those who wanted him gone. Worse yet, 50 wasn't treated like a victim. Columbia dropped him immediately, shelving power of the dollar. Media painted him as the problem, blackballing him and branding him too dangerous to touch. But why? Things up, but Ghetto Quran crossed the line, exposing real street moves tied to real money. With Murder Inc. tight with Supreme and Jimmy Henchman linked to big artists, labels wanted 50 nowhere near their offices. They weren't risking headlines or beef, so instead of backing a man who survived a near-fatal shooting, they treated him like the problem. That silence wasn't just fear, it was protection. And it gets shadier. Daryl Homo Baum, Supreme's guy and the alleged shooter, got killed just weeks after the hit on 50. Whether it was revenge or a cover-up, it worked. Everyone clammed up, avoiding the feds and the press. Gene Deal says this was no accident. It was a whole system shielding Murder Inc., keeping Supreme clean and punishing 50 for staying alive. So who knew the truth but stayed silent? And how many execs just looked away while chaos unfolded? 50 took that near-death moment and flipped it into the foundation of his whole brand. He wasn't just another Queens rapper, he was bulletproof. But Gene Deal's here to shake things up, saying what fans saw as a myth was actually a real plot, and the industry knew it all along. 50 didn't hide from the trauma. He owned it, making those bullets part of his empire. His album covers, press shots, and debut doc dripped with survival vibes. He never begged for pity. He made the pain iconic, calmly saying in interviews, "I got hit 9 times, I'm still here, now what?" And this wasn't just a gimmick. His music laid it bare. In Many Men, he wasn't spitting fiction. That hook, "Many men wish death upon me," was real life. The track oozed pain and paranoia, pulling fans deep into his world. So if you're a 50 fan, you gotta ask, why did no one pay for what happened? Everyone knew the deal. 50 almost died, but no arrests. The shooter, Homo, got killed weeks later, and Supreme only went down years later on unrelated charges. Nobody ever stood trial for nearly killing 50, and Gene Deal keeps hammering that point. He says it was a real hit, approved by people with serious money, power, and connections. According to Gene, 50's only alive because of pure luck, timing, and God, and he said it straight up in his latest interview. And the feds backed a lot of this up. Court docs, wiretaps, and testimonies all pointed to Murder Inc. and Supreme's crew tracking 50, plotting, and watching his every move. Even Jam Master Jay's murder got investigated for ties to 50 since Jay was warned not to work with him. That's how deep the blacklist ran. Now let's talk Ja Rule's role. Was he the mastermind or just the face? Sure, Ja had beef with 50 and reasons to want him gone, but Gene says he might have just been a pawn while the real orders came from above. For years, Ja's painted himself as the misunderstood artist, calling 50 both the bully and the victim, even accusing him of playing both sides on Math Hoffa's show. Gene Deal isn't buying Ja's story that he had nothing to do with the hit, he's calling it a straight-up cover-up. For years, Ja's been smooth-talking in interviews, making the 50 beef sound like a couple bars, a snatched chain, and bruised egos. He always says he kept his hands clean. Ja even tried flipping the stabbing story, claiming 50 filed a restraining order. But that paperwork was fake. He painted 50 as scared and soft, but Gene says none of it was true. According to Gene, Ja wasn't just Murder Inc.'s frontman. He was right there in the streets, standing with Irv when the orders were discussed. In his words, Ja wasn't no innocent bystander. He knew the play. Ja's been quick to troll 50 online, throw shade, and post memes. But when asked about the real street beef, he dodges every time, keeping things playful. Gene says that silence is calculated, because if Ja was truly innocent, why do his name and label keep popping up with street plots and violent moves? Gene's not sugarcoating any of it. Gene says Ja's whole "I'm just an artist" story is capped. He claims Ja's denials are part of a long-running PR cleanup that kicked off when the feds started eyeing Murder Inc. According to Gene, Ja crafted his peace-loving, wrongfully blackballed image just to survive, not to tell the truth. Gene's clear. Ja helped build the machine that tried to take 50 out, but he won't own up to it. And Gene's timing couldn't hit harder. Irv Gotti's new interviews still playing the victim, plus a surge of curiosity about hip-hop's darkest corners, have fans questioning everything Murder Inc. ever said. Now, the stage is set. Ja can keep denying, but Gene's message is loud. He was there, and Ja's far from clean. Gene also warns more names are about to drop. He didn't just wake up spilling tea, the timing lines up perfectly. With the Diddy raids, lawsuits, and exposés ripping hip-hop's secrets wide open, Gene stepped right into the chaos, and he's not holding back. As Diddy's former bodyguard, he's got receipts to prove it. Gene says Diddy wanted him dead ages ago, and now he's finally ready to tell the world. Just days ago, he revealed he was there for everything, from Biggie's murder to East Coast power moves, watching it all go down. And with Diddy now facing trafficking charges, federal raids, and a potential RICO case, Gene's making it crystal clear. I'm not going down with him. But Gene's not stopping at Diddy, he's coming for Irv Gotti too. While Irv hits Drink Champs and other interviews trying to polish Murder Inc.'s image, Gene calls BS on Irv's sob story of being just a misunderstood label boss. He says Irv and Ja spent 20 years rewriting history, acting like they were innocent bystanders in the 50-Cent feud when they were really pulling strings, even putting a bounty on 50's life. Now, with Ja back on tour, smiling like everything's sweet, Gene's saying loud and clear, this isn't over. And he's not just spilling tea for clout. He's drawing a line between what he witnessed and what he did, fighting to protect himself because he knows what's coming next. RICO charges, lawsuits, federal heat. If there was ever a time to speak up before the flames get too close, it's now. But Gene says it's bigger than him. He's sick of powerful people dodging the truth while victims get buried, both literally and figuratively. He's tired of seeing the industry turn real-life pain into promo. He swears it's not about clout or revenge. It's about telling the real story for those who didn't survive and those too scared to speak. But is Gene speaking facts or flipping the script? We don't know for sure yet. Some call him a hero for breaking the silence and exposing the grime under the music game. Others think he's just covering himself, trying to shape the story before someone else calls him an accessory. Truth is, it might be both. Gene was in those rooms, stayed quiet for years, but now he's naming names, dropping figures, and laying out motives, and barely anyone's denying it. So if Gene's telling the truth, someone out there still has blood on their hands. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and see you in the next one.